A big hello to you. It's so great to see you, and I hope I find you well. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcoming you back to the channel for this January 2024 progress video on the O-Gauge Garden Railway. Quite a few of you have been asking after the Garden Railway build, and to be perfectly honest, I haven't done an awful lot up until now. There's been numerous reasons for this, but autumn and winter aren't generally great times of the year to do any building work. But I thought it was about time to get back to work and try and get the Garden Railway fully finished so I can really enjoy it this year. In today's video, I'm going to take you through the progress so far, and we're going to get back to work building, and there's still quite a bit of concrete and brickwork to do, so let's get on to it. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support comes from...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
At the end of last year, I got a tree surgeon in to take down the really quite large conifer, and you can see what's left of the stump here. It really does open up the garden. I've actually used the stump to display one of the rail chairs that I picked up over the years. The logs that this yielded are safely under the carport, and this will keep the wood-burning stove going all of next year. They do need to, of course, dry out first, but never turn down free burnable wood. The first job was to check out the track bed and make sure there was no cracks or movement, and it seems to have stood up really quite well. One of the pleasing things to notice is that the cement which previously covered the plastic sleepers from when the ballasting was done has all weathered away, and it really does look quite smart now. There is still a gap where the track needs to be completed, but we'll get to that in a bit. First of all, I got myself a soft brush. These are the kind which you'd normally use for things like wallpaper paste, and they're a really great way of getting rid of bits and pieces that have often got stuck into track work. It's also a good opportunity to test that the point mechanism still works, and testament really to how robust these products are from Pico. Just moving our way slowly round, it's just a case of systematically cleaning up that track. You could also take this opportunity to go over with the track rubber, because the track does tarnish just a little bit, and you can actually see it goes a kind of coppery brown colour. But as I wasn't planning on running any trains anytime soon, I decided that that was something to leave for another day. It's also good to check some of those solder joints. You might remember us doing those in one of the previous videos to make sure that track power does get all the way around the layout. Moving round to another area, you can see as well the wildlife does tend to kick up bits and pieces, and where it runs through the bushes it might be necessary to trim back some of these, but for now I'm just concentrating on making sure that leaves, dirt and anything that's fallen from the bushes and trees is just cleared away from the track, so that when trains do start running they're not going to be derailed by anything. It's just really important not to stand on the track. Whilst it is set quite firmly into the cement ballast, I didn't really want to put my full weight down onto the rails in case I cause any bends or damage that would restrict train running later on. And we do have to think about decent access. It's something that's really quite important, and I'm going to touch upon that a little bit later on in today's video. Around the back of the layout, it's great to see that this concrete ballast has really worked, and we've still got a nice smooth curve on the track. Although access to this area can be quite tricky, what with the bushes and everything, and it did take quite a bit of cleaning, but it has to be noted a lot of this is what's come from the conifer tree that's now gone. So I'm hoping in the future that it's going to be a lot easier on maintenance, and hopefully isn't going to require quite so much work to keep the track free of bits and pieces. Working the way down to where the current railhead ends, this is an area that I was working on in one of the last videos, and it's a great opportunity as well just to make sure that that ABC section that I put in has weathered the winter well, and actually it's done really quite well, all things considered. This is the area that I really want to put a lot of work in this video. Getting good access up to the top of the garden railway has been really difficult. These steps were actually put in for the 00 gauge garden railway, but have ended up being just a little bit on the low side with all of the additions that have gone in. So I'm going to be building a new step on here. And first of all, I'm just cutting back some of the juniper bushes. These have really grown well, and it just shows that careful choice of evergreen plants is an absolute boon for any garden railway to make them look good all year round. Once we've got this area all cleaned off, I'm going to make up a mix of mortar that's 3 parts sharp sand to 1 part cement. And I actually find that this is really quite useful in the garden. I don't use building sand, and then I just use this to level off the top of the original step into where a new wall was built, and there's kind of this no man's land that just left far too big a step to safely get up onto the top part of the layout. And I think track access is very important, so that you don't run the risk of ending up accidentally stepping on the track. And it just makes it safer to get up there to deal with gardening and such like. I actually really enjoy doing bricklaying. It's something that I learnt a long time ago from my father. He's not a bricklayer, neither am I. But I kind of muddle through, and it's another one of those tasks a bit like ballasting, which I actually find to be really therapeutic. I can remember as a youngster my father building walls in the garden. He even built an extension himself. And like I said, he wasn't a bricklayer, but he was always eager to learn new skills. And just hanging around was a great way of picking up all manner of DIY and repair type skills. I learned how to do car maintenance, learned how to do gardening, bricklaying, doing electrical stuff, pretty much anything and everything. And it does give you a lot of confidence to be able to just make things the way you want them. And I actually really enjoyed this little project. It wasn't too difficult, just slowly building up the bricks. It didn't actually take too long to put these together, and it's a great little project to get you in the mood to do something more substantial. Once I'd got a little wall here 2 bricks high, it was simply a case of filling in behind, and I used some scrap bricks that I had interspersed with the mortar just to give it some decent strength, and then rendered the top with more of the mortar to create a flat step. And just take a little bit of time on this, make sure that everything's smooth and how you want it. And I just checked by eye that we didn't have too much of a slope on that, and then it's just as simple as that to get this project done. One of the things that you do need to keep in mind is that when you're mixing up mortar, it's very difficult to judge quantities. So I always had in the back of my mind that I'd have a second area to do some building on, and that's the track bed at the back of the circuit. You can see that winter has deposited quite a lot of vegetation on the original track bed that's being used as a foundation. So it's really important again to really clean this area up, brush everything out and get back to a good solid base without any organic material on it that we can then cement new brickwork into. Once everything is cleaned up, then you can see we're all ready to go. The original concrete base is actually cracked quite badly, and this was one of the reasons that the conifer tree just had to go, because it was causing this. Now I've got plenty of mortar left from doing the steps, so I'm bringing it up on the spade and then getting down to work getting some bricks into this area. And there's plenty of opportunity to lay stuff, making full use of the mortar that I mixed up, so nothing really goes to waste. The only thing that you've got to try and do is get the levels right. Now I don't want to introduce any adverse gradients. That was one of the kickers on the figure of 8 layout which I built and fell into every single pit hole that was possible to break into. So we're probably going to have enough cement here for 3, maybe 4 bricks, and it's just a case of making sure that they're clean because they've been sat out here in the garden over winter, and just getting them into that mortar. I don't have to be quite so neat over here because I'm going to be building up the ground level alongside this, so we're not actually going to see any amount of this embankment. It's just something that we know is in there to make the track really quite substantial. What I've chosen to do is I've got some string here and I'm using that in a spirit level. It's actually proved to be really difficult, so at this point I just gave up and chucked that to one side and just used my spirit level onto the top of this, tying it back to the track that's already there. So I know that if the base level that that piece of track is on is level with the top of this new area, then we're not going to introduce any gradients, and then the ballasting stage will take up any slack in terms of undulations. Certainly this is going to be a lot better for locomotives and trains to run on than the previous steep switchback that we had. It's also a lot thicker, so those cracks that you saw before, they're not going to feed through into this new bit of the build. Just as before, slow and methodical. The cement's actually starting to go off at this point, which makes it a little bit claggy. It's still workable with, but it's always as well, don't mix too much in the way of mortar in any one sitting. It's far better to do a series of smaller mixes than one huge mix and find that the cement becomes unusable part of the way through. I'm now at the stage where I've put a layer of render over the bricks that have gone in and just making sure that there's a gap between the new brickwork and the fence. I don't want to actually cement onto the fence, and in due course I'm actually going to jack up this fence and put some small spaces underneath. That gives you an air gap which stops water from accumulating and just stops any risk of the fence actually rotting out, which of course is a good consideration. Once all the brickwork is done, it's time to clean the tools, and then I'm going to go off and just have a cup of tea. And this is the tip that I learnt from my father that makes laying bricks so much easier and gets rid of any of the mess. Don't worry about pointing, don't worry about cement on the faces. We're going to come back to that. Now that we've had our break, I'm going to fill the bucket with water, and now comes the magic bit for making the brickwork really look quite presentable. And this is the trick that I learnt years ago from my father. The idea is that you clean all your tools off quite quickly because you don't want the cement to stick to it, but then you get the water and the bucket about half an hour or so later when the cement has gone off, and you just use that wet brush to brush away the cement which inevitably gets over things like the faces of bricks. You can't build cleanly, it just really isn't possible. But this allows you to clean up the cement that's got stuck to the face of the bricks, to that step that we built on top of. And you can actually also use it, because it's quite a stiff bristled brush, to kind of bully the pointing into shape. So there are special tools you can get for doing this, but actually for these small scale builds I find just using the wet brush is a really useful way of doing it. And just take your time, don't use too much water because it will start to wash away more than you want, but it's just a great systematic way to bring up the brickwork and make it look really nice and presentable. And that's pretty much it from this garden railway build progress video. The steps probably aren't the sexiest of builds, but they're certainly very important for being able to get safe access up to the rest of the layout. And with that conifer gone, it's only a matter of time before I get the full circuit in. I can really start enjoying running trains out in the garden. But do leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you about your garden railway build, or maybe you've been inspired to start on your own project in the garden. It's a really interesting way of modelling. It's actually quite different from the usual disciplines that we have in an indoor railway, and certainly it adds a whole new dimension to modelling, doing it with sand, cement, bricks, concrete and real plants as well. So until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself, happy modelling, and bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/JenniferKirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.